Okay, class. So let's start. I hope I'm audible to all of you. Rishita, Siddiqa, Sufyan, Taha.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have completed with the dual nature of matter and radiation. Now the next chapter in your modern physics unit is the atoms chapter. So this atoms is very much similar to what you've studied in your structure of atom class 11th chemistry, right? So basics part you've already studied. So many things will be revised and refreshed this time. Now, this is a very short chapter. Most of the portions that were earlier included have now been deleted also. Only these things that are present in the notes are included. That too, many things are not there, which I'll tell you. I have told you all before also, get these notes printed. If you have these printed, it will be very easy to study, and it's better always to study from the hard copy than the soft copy. Okay, so get these notes printed, and whatever things I'm mentioning or whatever things I'm asking you to write, it's better if you write on that sheet of paper only which you have got printed. So this will help you. All the notes will be together. I mean, so 15 pages were there in dual nature that time also. I was telling you here also 18, 19 pages are there. So let us start. So basically, you know the basic structure of atom. The initial part of this chapter is based upon the structure of atom. Half of the part is actually based upon the structure of atom, and you have in your syllabus all these theories included. So revise and remember all the postulates. These come in the exam in some of the pre-boards papers also, which you people have sent. These are included. So what is the structure of atom? Basically, when we are talking about the structure of atom, you know that there is a central nucleus present. Around the nucleus, the electrons, there are various shells. This you have studied, so it's a revision only of this part. And around that, electrons are present. And moreover, we have studied the structure in the electrostatics chapter also. So these electrons are present and they are revolving with definite energies. But this is the final conclusion that we know after all the contributions done by different scientists, right? What was initially done and how it started. So see, first the concept of charge was discovered by Coulomb, and he had all the concept of Coulombic force and everything. Then after that, Franklin told us about that, yeah, two types of charges are present, positive set are there and negative are there, and nothing was told. When we are talking about it at an atomic level. Atomic level is greater than the electronic level. Electron is the part of an atom. So when we are talking about it at an atomic level, there were various theories that came before this could be accepted. So first was the theory given by J.J. Thomson. Okay, so J.J. Thomson simply said that he said that the positive charges are present like this. See, each of the positive charge, they are just present together, clustered together, and they are present in the form of you can say continuous portion. You don't have spaces between them. So like this, if I draw it like this in this entire part, the way if we see, it was also named as the watermelon model. So see, in the central part, the entire positive charge is there like this. Okay. And what about the electrons? If this is the positive part, electrons were present like this. He said that electrons were present like this. So basically, if you see, this resembles the structure of a watermelon. So he said that the way the red part is present in the watermelon, which is the edible part, that is how the positive charges are distributed. And the way the seeds are embedded in it, the electrons are embedded within the positive charge. Or it was also named as the plum pudding model. Means the way pudding is there and plum, resins, these materials are present on the top of it. So pudding is like the positive part, and these plums and resins and the dry fruits and everything, these are the electronic charge. This was accepted initially because J.J. Thomson proposed this. But then Rutherford came And this model was rejected because he conducted an experiment that was the alpha particle scattering. Before that, let's read what is written. So, first model of atom was proposed by J.J. Thomson in 1998. According to this model, the positive charge of the atom is uniformly distributed throughout the volume of the atom, and the negatively charged electrons are embedded in it like seeds in a watermelon. So this model was picturesquely called the plum pudding model of the atom. Okay, so this was given by J.J. Thomson. Now let's come to the alpha particle. Before this, J.J. Thomson model is clear to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Others? Taha, Siddhika? Okay, Taha has responded. Siddhika, you're there in the class?
Yeah, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Khadija? You've joined a little late. Okay, let's start with the alpha particle scattering experiment then. So Rutherford conducted this experiment, and based on this experiment, the watermelon model of this J.J. Thomson was completely rejected. What he noticed was he used a source of alpha particle. Okay. And within this source of alpha particle, see, this was the source of alpha particle. And he used lead bricks, which gave a way so that the beam of alpha particles could be thrown. So like this, the beam of alpha particles were present. Now, there was a gold foil. Why was the gold foil? Gold foil is very, very, very thin. So alpha particles will be able to pass through the whatever structure is there within the gold. We know that it is the nucleus now, but whatever is the structure, that time it wasn't told, it wasn't discovered. So he used gold foil. Okay, see, 10 to the power minus 8 thick. This is such a less thickness. And then there was a zinc sulfur screen present. Now alpha particles are thrown, the beam of alpha particles, these are coming, and this is the gold foil, which is the target. So what was observed? It was observed that the alpha particles, some of the alpha particles could pass straight away without any bending, nothing. This was one of it. Second, it was observed some of it got deviated. Okay, some of them got deviated, and very, very less, like out of 8,000, only one. So one in every 8,000 alpha particles got deflected back by 180 degrees. Okay. So these were the observations. So see, you only tell me, class, if if all the positive charges are present the way he said that the red part of the watermelon is present, so nothing will be able to pass through it. Firstly, alpha particles have which kind of charge? Positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, right? So it has to be then deflected. It had to be deflected. But no, they are able to pass. It means J.J. Thomson's experiment was completely wrong. His proposal was incorrect. But then he had these things. So based upon this, he said that there is something which is present. Core part is present. Something is present. See, first understand it here. We'll come to the lines of the notes also. So something is present which has all the positive charge in it. It has all the positive charge in it. Why? Because when the electrons are coming, very few are getting pushed back because of it, and most of them are getting deflected. So if it is positive, then only it will be deflected. Had it been negative, alpha particles would have got attracted, because one thing is clear, alpha has a positive charge. This was already known. So it means this is something present central core. And when we are talking about the entire atom, this is just the central core part. When we are talking about the entire atom, there are vacant spaces within. So that's why the rays were easily able to pass through it. The straight rays were easily able to pass through it. Okay. How he told the arrangement of electrons, that we'll discuss. Now first let us read the lines. Understand class, wherever you have difficulty, you can stop me. So they directed a beam of 5.5 mega electron volt. These data you don't have to remember in this chapter. Alpha particles emitted from bismuth radioactive source at a thin metal foil made of gold of thickness 10 to the power minus 10 meter. So observations kya kya thi? So I have already told the observations. Let us read. Most of the alpha particles passed straight through the gold foil because spaces are empty in the atom. We know this. Only 0.14% of incident alpha particles were scattered by more than 1 degree. That deflection, that was a very slight deflection, but they were deflected. About only one alpha particle in every 8,000 alpha particles, means one in every 8,000, was deflected by more than 90 degree, that 180 degree one which I was telling you. So this was just a graph to show you don't have to remember this formula. This is not there in your syllabus. Just the graph that number of alpha particles is inversely proportional to scattering angle. You increase the number of alpha particles, the angle decreases. So this is it. But what was the conclusion by him? This led Rutherford to postulate that entire positive charge of atom must be concentrated in a tiny central core of the atom. That was what we were discussing already, right? What he said. So he named this as atomic nucleus. The central part, he named this central part as the atomic nucleus. Okay, he said that there's where the positive charges are present, that is the nucleus, and the rest of the vacant spaces are also there. That's why the ray could easily pass. Look at this figure. See, the rays are easily passing through the atom, but when they are coming in around the nucleus, some are getting deflected and very rare are hitting it and coming back. Tell me, class, till here you have understood? Any queries, anything? It's clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead. Okay, what is this distance of closest approach? Now, what is the structure of atom? We'll come to the structure of atom. Right now, distance of closest approach and impact parameter are the two things that we have to do. See, when any object is there in motion, in movement, what is the kind of energy that time? Movement, motion, kinetic energy. Correct. Kinetic energy. So when the charged particles, they are moving, okay, when these charged particles are moving, just a minute. Okay. So yeah, I was saying, yeah, when an object is moving, we say kinetic energy is there. So when these alpha particles were moving, the type of energy that was associated was kinetic energy. Fine. Now, if you remember, I have told you, whenever two charges were there, now try to recall your electrostatics. Two charges, Q1, Q2, when they are present, between them, what kind of energy exists? Potential energy? Yes? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Hmm. So, Why? Because we have studied about the Coulomb's law already, that between these two charges, there exists the Coulombic force of attraction. And we know how to calculate the magnitude also. So whenever you have a force in your system, you will be getting a potential energy associated with it. Because these are conservative forces, and potential energy is there as a result of conservative interaction in your system. So we have potential energy. So what happens here is, when the alpha particles are moving, there is kinetic energy present. And there is a point before the atom or before this nucleus is reached. There is a point, the alpha particles are moving. Before, this is the nucleus. Okay, this is the nucleus. But the alpha particle has not reached the nucleus. It slows down. Okay, it slows down, it stops. Okay. As soon as there is no movement, object is at rest, kinetic energy 0. Now kinetic energy is not there. But where has this kinetic energy gone? So entire kinetic energy has been converted to the potential energy, because now this is at such a distance where it can interact with the nucleus and exert force and have potential energy. So entire kinetic energy is converted to the potential energy. So this distance before the nucleus, where the entire kinetic energy is completely converted into electrostatic potential energy, is the distance of closest approach, whose formula only you have to remember. Basically, just equate the kinetic energy with the potential energy. You remember the potential energy's formula is K Q1 Q2 divided by R. So put the values here. See, ZE we write. This is ZE, not 2E. Z is for the atomic number. You don't know which atom is taken, of which element. One you know is alpha particle, so you can take this as 2E. What about other atom? What if it is iron, it is nickel, it is cobalt, it is calcium, it is helium? You don't know. That's why ZE. Take the atomic number from the periodic table, put it and calculate. So if you will equate these two, you will get this formula. R naught is equal to K, that is 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. What is the value of 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, Khadija? K, value of this K? Coulomb's law we have used a lot. K, Q1, Q2 by R square. Electric field, K, Q1 by R square, like this. KQ by R for potential.
8 point
That is epsilon naught.
epsilon naught.
8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12, Khadija, is epsilon naught. This entire K, try to recall, it was very easy. You replace and write it. If I give you a question, if I give you one charge's value, I give you another charge's value, I give their separation. How will you calculate the force? What is the value of this K? The dielectric constant in
9 into 10, 9 into 10 is to
power 9.
9. Yeah.
Both are 9. Remember, like, also 9, power is also correct. Absolutely right. So here 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, that is K, 2 ZE square by the kinetic energy, or half mv square. This formula only you need to know, not the derivation. Derivations of this chapters have been deleted in your syllabus. So you just need to know the formula. Now, what is this impact parameter? Impact parameter is also a very easy term. See, if I take a line from the nucleus, okay, and I take the perpendicular separation up to which the nucleus was deviated or before the deviation, this perpendicular separation is called the impact parameter. So the alpha particles or anything, they get deflected by some angle. This angle is, let's say, theta. So this is the angle of deflection, the amount of deflection that has occurred. Okay, this is what is impact parameter. So impact parameter is this perpendicular separation. All right. So let's read the terms first, and whatever doubts you have, you can stop me. So yeah, till here, yeah, atomic nucleus we have discussed. Okay, an alpha particle traveling directly towards the center of nucleus slows down as it approaches the nucleus. At distance of closest approach, R naught from the nucleus. R naught is the symbol for distance of closest approach. The alpha particles come to rest and its kinetic energy is completely converted to the electrostatic potential energy. Okay, so this is what we studied, the expression of it. Coming to impact parameter. Impact parameter is defined as the perpendicular distance of the velocity vector of the alpha particle from the center of nucleus when it is far away from the atom. So this also directly formula you have to remember. K, that is 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, Ze square cot theta by 2. Theta is that deflection by kinetic energy. This is also not very important, these two formula, but they are there. Now let's see what all conclusions he made. Rutherford, we have studied. So he said that we talked about that, yes, he talked about the nucleus, that nucleus is present, nucleus is existing. The diameter of the nucleus is 10 to the power minus 14. This is existing. He said that within the atom, the electrons are just present at different radii. They are all present at different radius. Okay, like this. And they are in a circular manner, moving and emitting energy. This is what he said, which led to the drawback of this model. See, till the nucleus part, everything was right. Till electron part, also most of the things were right. But see, there were issues. Let's read the lines first. What was the postulates by him? So an atom may be regarded as sphere of diameter 10 to the power minus. These values you need not remember, all these values. This is important till here. Whole of the positive charge and almost the entire mass of the atom. Positive plus almost all the, like the core part, is in a small center core called the nucleus. So he defined the nucleus basically. Secondly, he said that the nucleus is surrounded by electrons. See, the nucleus is surrounded by electrons. The electrons are spread over the remaining part of the atom, leaving plenty of space in the atom. Because according to his alpha particle experiment, he saw that the rays were easily moving. If the rays of alpha particle were easily able to move, means spaces are left in the atom. So yeah, electrons will be distributed like here and there. That's why he concluded it. And then he said that third point of his model, as the atom is electrically neutral, means whatever is the amount of positive charges held by the nucleus is equal to the amount of electrons scattered within the plane space. Okay, that is neutral's definition, you all know. Fourth point, he said that electrons are revolving around the nucleus in circular orbits. So how are they able to revolve around the circular orbits? Whatever is the required centripetal force not to move the electrons around the nucleus, that is provided by the electrostatic forces of attraction. We have studied this. If you remember in the first chapter also, we saw how centripetal forces are provided by the electrostatic forces of attraction. So these are the 4 points. But issue was that this wasn't completely wrong. Many things were right. Like he told about the nucleus, that was a good thing that he told. But regarding the stability of the atom, there wasn't much clarity. See, he said electrons are moving, they are emitting energy, And if all the atoms are moving and emitting energy, then what should happen? All the energy will be lost. Electron will eventually not be able to revolve. It will fall into the nucleus. Electrons falling into the nucleus, this destroys the atom. That means stability of the atom has gone. So it means there is some problem with his experiment. Not his experiment, in his conclusions. So what are the drawbacks? Let's read the drawbacks. He said that when the electrons revolve around the nucleus, they are continuously accelerated towards the center of the nucleus. And according to Lorentz said that an accelerated charged particle should radiate energy continuously. So if revolving electrons are continuously, if they are continuously emitting energy, then radius will decrease and they'll fall, ultimately fall into the nucleus. Stability of the atom has gone. And again, he told about the line spectrum. Line spectrum we'll be doing. He didn't mention anything about the line spectrum. So that was also his limitation. Bohr's model is left. We'll be discussing the Bohr's model. But before that, tell me, class, is it clear to all of you till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do one thing. Take 2 minutes. Go through every point till here. Whatever point you think you have not understood, just summarize it, because Bohr's model is very important and you have the numericals from Bohr's model. So this was the theoretical part that was included. So just take 2 minutes, go through it, then I'll start with the Bohr's model. Okay, class. Yes. Any doubts? Is it clear till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, no. Yes, class, is it clear? Okay. So coming to the Bohr's postulate, before that, there's Bohr's quantization condition. Let us discuss that. So see, what is this? This is a wavelength. Means after this, the wave will start repeating itself, right? So that is what is meant by a wavelength. The length of one wave before it starts repeating itself, or the consecutive distances between the crest and a trough, like that. This is the wavelength. Now, if I have a wave and I turn it in the form of a circle, I join the ends and I turn it in the form of circle. So will it not like look like this? See, this is the circle. The wave see, like this the wave would look like if you turn it. So let's say n number of wavelengths are formed. One wavelength, second wavelength, third wavelength, fourth, fifth, sixth, n number. We don't know what's that number. Okay. So equal to, can somebody tell there, if you turn it in the form of circle, what will the length be equal to?
2 pi r.
By lambda.
Length L is there, converting it into a circle. So yes, 2 pi r. So here also n lambda is the entire length of the wave. I've converted into a circle. So this is 2 pi r. From here, yeah, in the last class we did de Broglie's wavelength. What was the formula of lambda? This class, lambda, de Broglie's wavelength.
H by 2 pi.
Remember de Broglie's wavelength we did where we completed this? Yeah, tell me the formula of lambda. Right? Okay, H is right. H by what?
mv.
MV. Okay. MEW, what is that? MV. Okay. Taha. MV. Yes. Right? MV. So if we put in the value here, NH by MV will be equal to 2 pi small r. From here, if I bring 2 pi here and MV there, so NH by 2 pi will be equal to MVR. If you remember in your class 11th, you must have done MVR is actually the formula of angular momentum. So angular momentum's formula is R cross P, that is R multiplied to the linear momentum. So NH by 2 pi is equal to MVR. That is the formula. My voice is breaking. Okay. Okay, now tell me if it is better or not. It is better? Now is it?
So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, MVR is the angular momentum R cross P. So here this NH by 2 pi becomes equal to the angular momentum, NH by 2 pi. So do one thing, quickly write down this part. Those who have printed the sheets, write it there. Those who have the registers, please write it and get the sheets printed. It will be easy for you to revise. Quickly write down this, then we'll come to the postulates by the Bohr. Okay, now let's read. You all have written?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So let's read the statements of Bohr. So see, whatever were the drawbacks of Rutherford were overcome by Bohr. He said that no, this isn't like that. Electrons are just keep on losing their energies and then they are losing on energies and finally falling into the nucleus and the atom is destroyed and no stability is there. No. He said that there's a definite amount of energy that can be emitted by an electron. That's why electrons are stable. And this is called as the stationary state of the atom. So let's read. Bohr's first postulate was that an electron in an atom could revolve in a certain stable orbits. He told that electrons are not just scattered like this. There are proper orbits without the emission of radiant energy, contrary to the prediction of what was done earlier. Now, according to this postulate, each atom has certain definite stable state in which it is existing, and each possible state has a definite energy. Means definite state with definite energy. It is not crossed. So this is the stationary state of the atom. Okay, so he told that orbits are present, electrons are revolving within these orbits only, and every orbit has a fixed level of energy. We'll calculate also, we'll see how this fixed level of energy is existing. Now, second postulate we have already discussed, that angular momentum is n times h by 2 pi. Okay, so this we have discussed. Third point, see, he said that, see, this is the nucleus. These are the various layers in the atom. Okay. If the electron is, let's say, at this level, it is going from this level to this level. Okay. It is the initial level, IEI. It is the final level. Class, what will be the change in energy according to you?
F minus EI.
E, F minus
EI.
EI. Yes, correct. See, EF minus EI. Now, there is one issue with this. It's that the energy is highest of the closest one. And the farther the energy starts decreasing. Okay, this is the greatest energy, like this. So that's why we write E initial minus E final, which is equal to H nu, which we have already studied in the dual nature. Okay, this is what is written, that when a photon is emitted, has between initial and final state, and frequency is given. Now coming to the radius of orbit, derivation you don't have to do. I'm just discussing it so that you know how the formula is written. Don't do the derivation, but expression is there in your syllabus. Okay, I'll show you also this. Alpha particle scattering experiment we have done, Rutherford's model done, Bohr's model of hydrogen atom done. Expression is only there. So see, look, the centripetal force is provided by the electrostatic force, the Q. So what is the electrostatic force? Ck. And centripetal force is mv square by r. The radius. When you equate these, you get the equation. Okay. Yeah, I was saying that till the radius part, did you all hear?
No.
Okay. See. Okay. See, for the radius, just remember. Now it's fine. I hope I'm not lagging right now. It's fine, audible?
That's fine.
Okay. The centripetal force is provided by the electrostatic force. So centripetal force is mv square by r, and the electrostatic force is k e square by r square. So we equate these two and we write the formula of radius from here. That is 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught e square by mv square. Okay. We have studied the Bohr's quantization right now. Before this, mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. From here, we write the value of velocity, nh by 2 pi mr. V squared, we put the from here, we put the value of V here. Okay, this value is. So when you put the value V squared, finally this is present. Now 4 pi will cancel this 4 pi, only 1 pi will be left. Epsilon naught, you know, for full case, the value of epsilon naught, right? So you know, remember? Yes, Khadija? Khadija, you're there?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So h square n square by me square. So Planck's constant, you put the value, epsilon naught you put, pi's value you put, mass of electron you put, electronic charge you put. See, n square is different. You don't know which orbit, which level. First level, second level, third level, fourth level, which level. So we leave it. When you put all the values, actually there is, this is when you write, this is divided by z square also. Z square means the atomic. This is for only hydrogen. What if I square also? Keep, write it somewhere, the actual formula. So this is the expression of radius, which you have to remember. For the energy, see, instead of this, I'll tell you an easy method to, easy formula part to remember. See, kinetic energy is equal to, remember, this kinetic energy is equal to K E square by 2R. The potential energy is equal to minus K E square by R. Because of this, you can see this relation. Potential energy is 2 times kinetic energy. And the total energy means when you're adding the kinetic plus the potential, when you're adding these two, total energy of the system, this will be minus K E square by 2R. 1, 2, 3, and this fourth. Write down these 4. Instead of this, you can leave this, just write these because numericals are there based on this. And this is enough. Please write it quickly and just text me done. Okay, so that's it, what you can remember for energy instead of it. Okay, now when you equate kinetic energy with potential energy, finally you will get this energy. E is equal to minus 13.6 Z square by N square electron volt. Okay. So this is already mentioned. Z square you can remember for the atomic number. Atomic number you have to check from the periodic table. So I hope by now all of you know the periodic table from your chemistry. So this is the formula that you get, and this is very important. This is very, very important because kinetic energy, potential energy will be stated separately. But when energy is mentioned, only this will be helpful, because the question will say electron is moving from first to fourth. Electron is there at the fourth level, calculate the energy. So I told you, Bohr said that every state means every orbit has a definite energy. So how can you calculate that? This is what is that definite energy. Minus 13.6 by N square. See, if you have this energy, minus 13.6 by N square, if I want to find it for the fifth level, fifth orbit, so I'll just put N is equal to 5. That is minus 13.6 divided by 5 square. So that will be minus 0.54 electron volt, like this. You take N is equal to 1 for the first level. That is the first one. Now remember one thing. This I'll tell you, and you can draw this also. See, this is the nucleus. Now the first orbit which is present, this N is equal to 1, the first one. This is also called as the ground state. Okay, this is also called as the ground state. Now the next level, this is called, this N is equal to 2. This is called as the first excited state. Okay, this is called as the first excited state. Now likewise you will have this. So N is equal to 3 will be called as the second excited state. N is equal to 4, fourth excited state. N is equal to N is equal to 4 will be the third excited state. One less. If I say 100th excited state, means the 101 level. Or if I say 99th level, what is the excited state? 98th one. Excited state is always lesser than 1 because it is not started from 1. It is started from 2. So just write this roughly somewhere in your registers quickly, very quickly. That 1 is ground 1, and then the electron, as it keeps on moving up, it goes into the excited state. Done?
Yes.
Others also? Yes. Taha, Siddiqa, Taha has written. Khadija, Rishita, done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's see. Now, if you put N is equal to 1, you get minus 13.6. If you put N is equal to 4, so instead of this, N is equal to infinity, E will be 0. E is equal to 0 is the maximum energy. Beyond it, nothing is possible. N is infinity. Now nothing is possible. That is the maximum value. So you have all the energies in negative. Now energy quantization is important. For that, we have the energy level diagram. So see, when you put N is equal to 1, you get minus 13.6. N is equal to 2, minus 3.4. N is equal to 3, minus 1.5. Equal to 4, n is equal to 4 minus 0.85, equal to 5 minus 0.54 electron volt. 6, n is equal to 6 minus 0.37 electron volt, is equal to 7 minus 0.28 electron. So out of all this class, I'll suggest you that remember the first 5 energies, because you will see in your calculating it every time. See, it's easy to divide it by 4, then why to divide it by 25, 16 all the time? At least till 5 you should remember. Okay, E is equal to 5. So if I want to display it, that is called as the line diagram. It is written on energy level diagram. What is this energy level diagram? Suppose I want to represent the energies and I want to show how they are for every orbit. So see, this is how we'll get. And for the first one will also be there, which has minus 13.6 electron volt. This will also be there for n is equal to 1. So this is the entire energy level diagram. So till 6th has been shown. Last one it has shown that it will be 7, 8, 9, 10, and up to infinity, where energy is maximum, that is 0. So minimum energy, maximum energy. Okay. Now coming to the atomic spectra. Now this is very important, the entire spectrum. Before this, tell me the energy level, radius, velocity, kinetic energy. Have you all understood all these points? Anything that you want me to repeat? Any part? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you repeat the energy level diagram again?
Yeah. See, energy level diagram is basically this. This is the energy level diagram. Energy level diagram basically means that, see, formula is equal to minus 13.6 by n square. If I put n is equal to 1, I'll get this energy. Then the next level. These are basically like the orbits which are present, the shells, the orbits where the electrons are revolving. N is equal to 2, so energy is represented. So energy level diagram, energy is increasing and reaching 0 value, that is the maximum value. So energy is levels diagram. So for every orbit number, the associated energy is mentioned. So like this, how the energies are. This is just a graphical, not a graphical one, but a pictorial kind of representation to remember how the number of orbits are related with their energies. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. Now, what is this line spectra and line emission spectra and line absorption spectra? See, more than the definition, we have the line spectrum available. So you have this in your syllabus. See, velocity, this we have done. Hydrogen line spectra, qualitative treatment only. Only this part is there in your syllabus. So yeah, what is line emission spectra? When an atomic gas or vapor at low pressure is excited, usually by passing an electric current through it, the gas or the vapor usually emits radiation of certain specific wavelengths only. Those wavelengths we have to calculate and study. A spectrum of this kind is called a line emission spectrum, where few bright lines are formed on the dark background. So how to calculate the frequency? Again, by incidence minus final, initial minus final. What is line absorption spectrum? When white light is passed through the gas or vapor, we observe a bright background formed across few dark. Now background is dark, few bright lines you are able to observe. There also you were able to observe few bright lines on the dark background. But now this dark line, this basically signifies that wavelengths are missing. So they form line absorption spectrum. Now, missing wavelengths are same as the wavelength present in emission spectrum. Every gas or vapor has its own characteristic line emission absorption spectrum, which see more than this, no, I'll show you a figure Yes, class. First, take the screenshot of this page quickly, all of you. And after the class, draw it also in your spaces wherever you are using. It's better all those who have taken the printout to write on the notes itself directly. Just take the screenshot quickly. Yes, written, done, take it. Okay, now let's see. Now, if electrons from different, what is this energy level diagram now related to the concept of what we have studied in the energy level diagram before this. See, if electrons are present at different shells, at different orbits, okay? And these electrons are coming back. But all of these are coming back to the first, what is the first level called? Ground state. Okay, all of these are coming back to n is equal to 1. That is the ground state. So this series of emission, the line diagram which we have just read, this is called the Lyman series. Okay, Lyman series. If all of these from anywhere, you can see different infinities also there in between, whatever is there, are coming to finally n is equal to 2. It's the Balmer series. Finally, they are coming to n is equal to 3. It cannot go below it. From here it can come, from here it can come anywhere. But 2 n is final energy level should be third one only. It is Paschen. Final energy level, if it is n is equal to 4, it is bracket series. Final energy level is Fund. This is the final energy level is 5th. It is the Fund series. So Lyman 1, Balmer 2, Paschen 3, bracket 4, Fund 5. Now come to the notes part. That screenshot I hope you have taken. So spectral lines, this you don't have to do. This entire page, just cut it when you are studying this entire page. This one whole, this entire thing. What you just have to do, that final formula which is coming, that is the Rydberg's constant. This formula, that's it. Out of this entire page, you just have to do this. 1 by lambda is equal to RH into 1 by n final square minus 1 by n initial square. N are the number of orbits, are the number of shells in which electrons are moving. Initial is from where the electron is coming. And n final is where the electron has arrived. Like, you know, for Lyman series, every electron will come back to final will be 1 only. So n final will be 1 only. For, let's say, Balmer series, where from wherever the electron is come, whatever be the n initial, electron will come back to 2 only. So this is the constants value, Rydberg's constant, 1.0967 into 10 to the power 7. This is usually written as 10 to the power 7 per meter only. So this is the Rydberg's constant. Okay, this is the Rydberg's constant. So this is given Rydberg's constant. This constant, you know, by using this formula, you can get the wavelengths value. You should just know what is the final, what is the initial. Okay, so this formula is very important. You'll have plenty of questions from this formula. Now look, this is just a representation. See, from different orbits, the electrons are coming, but final level is 1. That is fixed. From different level electrons are coming, but final level is 2. See, second one. Final level is 3 in the Paschen one. See in the bracket. It is coming from 7th also. It is coming from 6th also. But finally it is stopping at 4. Okay. And finally, if it is stopping at the 5th one, it is the Fund. Only 5 series you have to remember. 1 by lambda is also called the wave number. So if wave number is asked, then just calculate 1 by lambda, means the formula as it is. If wavelength is asked, then class you have to reciprocate it because it is there in the denominator. Now let us see each of the series clearly and properly. Okay, today you don't have the 2 hours class. 1.5 hour class is enough because we are completing this chapter. This is the last part. Okay, so just don't think that 45 minutes or only 15 minutes are left. So pay attention. This will just complete the chapter. 1 or 2 numericals, some numericals we have to do in the next class, then we will be completing nuclear. First, I'm focusing on completion of the portion, the syllabus, and then we'll go on to the numericals part. We have to do lots of numericals from modern physics, from all the chapters in the form of revision. So lots of questions have to be done that I'll be discussing in the revision class only. Many good questions. I've already written the questions. We just need to practice. But right now, let us complete the syllabus. So in the next class, few questions from atom we'll do, and then we'll complete nuclei. So yeah, coming to Lyman series. So it's a series in which the spectral line corresponds to the transition of electron from higher state to lower state, corresponding to C. Electrons can come from any of the levels. See, initial level can be anything, 2, but starting from 2, not 1. 2, 3, 4, till infinity, anything. Final level has to be 1. So in this formula, when you put final and final is clear that it is 1, and initial is, it can be anything. Now class, just understand the concept of longest and shortest wavelength. Longest wavelength, see, if this is the nucleus, this is one layer, second, third, fourth, and up till you have the 2, 3, 4. Suppose Lyman series, electrons have to come from the any of the level to the first one. See, remember E is equal to hc by lambda. So energy is inversely proportional to the wavelength. So class, you tell me, for the longest wavelength, the energy difference should be less or more? Longest wavelength. Higher wavelength, less energy or more energy? Look at this relation.
Less energy.
Yes, less energy. Less wavelength, more energy. More wavelength, less energy. Inversely proportional, no? So longest wavelength means the shortest energy difference. That is from second when it comes to the first. First is fixed. It has to come to first only. But n initial, we'll take it as 2. And for the shortest wavelength, the higher energy gap that is possible means from infinity to level 1 we'll take. This will give the shortest wavelength. So we'll put initial as infinity here, initial as 2 here for the longest wavelength. Tell me class, is this clear? If this is clear, then only you'll be able to understand the rest of the spectral series. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Rishita, Taha, okay, Taha is understood. Rishita, clear?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Now you'll be able to understand rest of it. Coming to Balmer series, final energy level has to be 2. Initial can be anything starting from 3 onwards. So formula will be like this. So if you're talking about the longest wavelength, means the shortest energy difference. So just the next one. So what should be E initial for the longest one? Quickly answer class. Longest wavelengths N initial. What should I take? Say, longest wavelength means shortest energy difference. And final is 2 for Balmer. So what is the next one? N is equal to 3. N is equal to 3. Just the next one will give you a shorter difference. To mention, the first one lies in the ultraviolet spectrum. You have studied about EM waves. So this lies in the ultraviolet region. Balmer series lies in the visible. You tell me, in the Paschen series, final level is 3. So this will be the formula. For final, we'll take 3 and an initial can be anything from starting from 5. Now class, you tell me, for the longest wavelength, what should be an initial, Ni?
4.
Longest wavelength, 4. Yes. Longest wavelength means shortest difference. If n final is 3, next one will be 4. And this energy expression for shortest wavelength will be infinity only. Right. And this see, and rest of it Paschen bracket fun lies in the infrared region. So see, Paschen series 1 by, you have the final level as 3. So shortest energy level will be infinity. Sorry, shortest wavelength will be infinity. Longest wavelength means shortest energy. That is the next one, 4. Similarly, bracket final energy level is 4. So initial can be anything, 5, 6, 7. But if longest is asked, just the next one, 5. The shortest will be infinity. Similarly to for fund also, n final will be 5. Initial can be anything, 6, 7, 8 or anything. So longest wavelength will be shortest, and learn it like this only. Longest wavelength means shortest energy difference. Shortest means just the next one. So n is final is 5, so next one will be 6. And shortest wavelength means highest energy difference. Highest value possible we have studied is infinity. So n initial will be infinity. This lies in the infrared region. One more thing, class, I'll just tell you here. See, in this, n is equal to 1 for Lyman series. Sometimes it can be written as the ground level also. So keep it in your mind that this can be written as ground level also. Okay. For Balmer series, the n final is first excited state. Remember this. For Paschen series, n is equal to 3 is the second excited state. For bracket, n is equal to 4 is the third excited state. And for fund, n is equal to 5 is the fourth excited state. Okay. This is what you have to remember. First, tell me, among the spectral lines, is it clear to everyone? All of these spectral lines. Have you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Khadija?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Bohr also had certain limitations. Firstly, he just took hydrogen and then conducted all these conclusions. So that was incorrect. What about lithium, helium, any multi-electron species? So it explains the spectra of only hydrogen-like atoms. That is, atoms having only one electron, such as hydrogen, helium, lithium. It fails to explain the spectra of multi-electron atom. Secondly, when a spectral line is observed under a powerful microscope, it was observed that closely spaced lines were present. He didn't tell about anything in the structure. That's why this is one of the limitation. Then these spectral lines which we have studied, no, all these spectral lines, under the influence of magnetic field, they split. It is called Siemens effect. And under the influence of electric field, they split. It is called Stark's effect. So you need not remember anything in that. Within that, you just need to know that this is just the formula of it. Okay. So it did not explain that. That is one of the limitations. Then Bohr theory defines the orbits in which an electron can revolve very precisely. But if you are able to tell the location and momentum of the electron, means this is against Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So that is also one of the limitations. And it consists electrons only as particles. So Bohr only considered the particle nature. In dual nature, we have studied that two natures are there. de Broglie's wavelength and wave nature is also existing. So these are the limitations of Bohr. So all these things you have to read You have to read and learn. All these portions are there in your syllabus. Very less part is there. And what is this excitation? This is just the last part. Then you all will be free. See, excitation, I told you, when the electron jumps to a higher level from a lower to higher, the energy released is called the excitation energy. Okay. One more thing. Class, if the electron is completely removed from the atom, like right now, it was going from one energy level to a higher energy level. So that is excitation energy. But if what is that energy which is required to completely remove an electron from an atom? In chemistry, you have done that energy. Can anyone tell? Energy required to completely remove electron from an atom. Can anyone tell?
Threshold energy.
Which energy, Rishita?
Threshold energy.
Right. Ionizing energy. You all have heard of it? Ionizing energy.
Yes.
So, yeah, potential. Yeah, this is the ionizing energy. So the energy which is required to completely remove the electron from the atom. An accelerating potential required to remove electron out of the atom is ionization potential. So excitation energy is when the electron jumps to a higher level, just a higher level. Excitation potential is potential required to jump the electron to a higher level. And ionization is to remove electron completely from an atom. And the potential required to completely remove electron from the atom is the ionizing potential. Just write these 2 points, this one and this one quickly, and text me done. In the next class, we'll do 1 or 2 questions and start with nuclei.